All right, and soon everybody, Donovan's going to be settled in. Got to work with a bank on something. There's good things, no debt. And this is going to be good. Because I do not want to one day have to beg for food, which I see a lot now. And I really, let's all cross ourselves in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, because boy, am I a lucky man. I'm a lucky fella. I'm a lucky fella. It's kind of cruel how lucky I am. Seeing people who I know, like, they're trying and their luck's not pulling through. Their guardian angel's not pulling through for them. So I it's one of those days where feeling the sense of, okay, so now, because as Aaron Clarey put it, what's important is other humans. So it's investing in the in CDs and stuff like that, and being, and because you got to invest in other humans. That's the only way it works. That's the only thing that just seems that wealth seems to come out of the sea foam, but you got to invest in humans, and then that and so that's how that is, and so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, and it gives me that reason where it's like I gotta be invested in believing in it too, and being a part of it. That's where this was all walking through. I was walking through this. But the whole people misunderstand the red pill world, the manosphere world, things like that. They find these people who are definitely these loudest of voices, who are kind of the most vociferous and kind of, they say the wiliest and craziest things, and they're able to manipulate, manipulate people, so that people listen to them. But often it's that they're doing what's easy, the negative attention. The positive attention is a harder thing to get, because you got to create something. And people then, they look and they say, wow, you created that, or you made that happen. That's so cool. You're so cool. And that's hopefully how it kind of goes. And then more and more and more people invest more and more and more into what you do. This is the idea that people kind of get with the Trump thing, is that he had to hype up going to his hotels. He had to hype up golfing, where he made golf courses. These are all things, and my level of the economy, none of this stuff means anything to me. But I mean, that he did apparently very well at this. So that's what inspired a lot of these young men to then be like, well, okay, so how do you make any money at all? And so that changed a lot, because what they saw was the late boomers working extremely hard, usually in the professions. They didn't really understand what maybe their parents were doing in the professions. They would see movies with TPS reports and the like, and The Office and stuff. They'd be like, I don't even know what people do in an office. I don't know. I mean, really, I one time had a 10-key job. That's about it. That's close I got. So a lot of young people were like all over the internet for the last 15 years. Like, okay, no, my boomer parents do this, and this. And so then, they'd go off to college. Milo goes to college. And so what do you end up getting? You don't really get necessarily this horrible and bad kind of outcome. You get an outcome that was just simply unexpected. And that's what's been so fun, is all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you've got a lot of men who are just like, I'm going to kind of get independent as I can and as wealthy as I can. How do I do this? And that was fascinating because all these young dudes started doing that. And it's really surprising to find out, like, how, no, I just followed pretty much this plan. I had this available to me, and so I did this, and it's really pretty dope, you know, like, I'm, like, really impressed, like, wow, you know, you pulled it off, kid. That they don't want to be dependent upon the office like their parents were, that they associate it. My parents seem to be miserable in that kind of work, but they liked the money. And as their child, you know, you like the money, but then you're like, but it's misery, supposedly. My parents hated going to this office place. So it started this whole thing on the internet of these guys figuring out all these ways sort of around this. And key to it was working from home. This is a male invention. This is not moms with, the babies, and I have to take people to soccer. And there are those women who did that, but this was something advocated for by the manosphere almost since its inception. Because so many of these men were like, this is something easily done from home. And that they would be like, in fact, if I had the same files and all this information, you know, all I'd have to do is do this, this, and this, and I could cut the time in half because they wouldn't have to drive into the city. So I started really, like, I kind of thought, it's going to happen faster, because in my mind I'm thinking this benefits women, so it'll happen relatively quickly. It wasn't until COVID that it happened, and there's kind of a horrible thing we had to face about that. Women like being in the office. It's a prestige issue. So this changed a lot about how since COVID cinched in a lot of things. A lot of people had to sit there and go, yeah, okay. Yeah, so the COVID thing has made me understand things that I kind of didn't want to think about, like, all kinds of different groups in society. And so now you have these men who are financially literate, they understand fundamental terms of finance, they understand economics. Now you think you're like, no, I meet men and they did no, these are the guys who are gone. They're just gone. You can't find them. You would have to almost physically collide with them in the street to find them. And they're just we just ghost. We're gone. We're ninja. We're the Kagyu Ninja Clan. But we're so secret, there's not even a name for us. But the thing is, it was this thing of, if I concentrate on my finances, I'm better off. If I concentrate on health, I'm better off. If everything else comes from shining like the sun. And so there's people who even developed this into Apollonianism, I guess was the term. Ooh, the Oddfellows building got all spiffed up. Then there was spiffening. They've got through a spiffening ritual, you know, the rite of spiffening, and making the old lodge spiffy, you know. Who even know? If any of you even know, like, an odd fellow, put it in the comments. Like, that would be hilarious. Yeah. Still going strong, apparently, still going strong. But yeah, so this isn't really something that's kind of lamentable, but I get it, it is. These guys are gone. Now they're becoming finally financially stable, but they really don't want to, like, have a lot to do with society. The social games, meeting your friends, and you have to sit there and listen to these, what are probably going to be woman takes on things. And a lot of men have gotten to the point that it's like, well, I understand women think that. And you don't want to do a but, because then there's very negative butt in there. I want to put a butt in her face. I want to be the butthead. But butt heads with her, But so you got to put the and, the and. I know women think this. And. So, and you don't say that, I know women think this. It's a psychological kind of, I know women think this. And then you speak. Well, the issue that you're really having here is that, and you go through it. Oh, well, this is interesting. Oh, no, that's been there. There's a lot of stuff closed down. This is freaking me out. Eugene, Oregon, this is freaking me out. I walked this area, and you could see who, like the Oddfellows and a few other, that they got maybe a little money drop of some sort and spiffed up everything. Like these apartments, they spiffed up. But boy, oh boy. And I'm wondering if maybe there's an issue of renting these places, that there's now like a real, like they really actually are like, no, we actually are really having trouble finding, stable, long-term residents. Which is its own issue, but anyway, so the manosphere and the red pill world and all this stuff that a lot of people they're afraid of, because they only hear the people who you're supposed to be afraid, fear the words of this bald muscular guy, and fear the words of this little Catholic dude, it's but it's more of people like Andrew Wilson, that he and Andrew Wilson, Elko cited, so Andrew Wilson, who does lots of debates, that his whole idea, he's like, I want to know as firmly, I want both of us to come away with this knowing exactly what each other think in clear terms. That's one of the most key things about, like, the quote-unquote online right, that the left, the Democrats, because of your insistence on euphemism, because of your insistence on veiling your arguments in some other mores, actually. In fact, veiling them in mores. That would be, there's probably a Latin term for this or something. But yeah, veiling them in mores. And because of stuff like that, you end up becoming less and less credible, now to the point that there's not really a way back. You don't really have, like, a path. There's not a path back from being considered the betrayer. In TV shows, badly written TV shows nowadays, there is, but for the most part, that there's not really a way back for that the party considered the betrayer in the situation. And so now the future lies with really the right, and how this new manosphere and such is going to deal with what seem to be a promise of lower rates, but also how like no matter how well studied on Ludwig von Mises a lot of these fellows might be, they're not going to suddenly soak up with their genius what might happen in the housing, soon in housing, and is already kind of starting. that this, nobody has any idea. Like, and I really want to admit that, because as I did in another, we have to understand our limitations. That's a key to that type of thinking. And so we have no idea how this is going to get kind of solved. We just have no idea how this is going to be quote unquote solved in some way. All we know is that because there's too many bubbles, and bubbles that have ridden then on a bubble, that we don't know what's going to soak it up, no matter how much economics all of us study, no matter how many Discord servers we're in debating it. And there's just going to be pain. And a lot of people are going to have to just then come to this understanding. You can never do what the baby boomers did ever again. Oh, okay. We got some suits. I'm starting to think about that. Like, just have a couple practice suits, so I could kind of get practicing on suit discipline. Just so because I don't even have a suit to be buried in anymore. The one I have is probably way too damaged now. The wool's probably way too damaged. I'm too big now. All right, too big. Gotta get smaller. That's a big part of the quest for the rest of year number 50. And that's another thing is, so there's some of us that we tried our hardest to be charmers when we were young, and so that was kind of a part of what like attracted us to certain articles and writers and books and things like that, Discord servers, And we'd be charmers, we like, what stuff, places to go, stuff to wear, ways to say things. I was always an advocate for very much the physical culture and a healthy sense of physical culture. There's a lot of stuff that was, I'm like, no. This is, a lot of you are going to be spending a lot of time trying to do that. A lot. Now what you can do is this, and this is an easy method that actually comes from NASA to get astronauts from the level of mathematician, astrophysicist guy to able to keep on the muscle mass necessary to stay up in space and all these other things. And so that was also a part of it, was the joke was actually, and you would have this certain kind of picture, MS Paint picture, and it was because we're like that. Guys are competitive in that manner. Actually, let me tell you what the science is on that. Now, when you actually do know something that is scientifically proving, like somebody, no, I get what you mean, but really, the science of it is more like this, and the whole point being that you're actually trying to be helpful, that it's not really scoring points. It's at a certain point it starts to become like you're part of the team, and you guys are trying to build something up, and you're building up to something, to the truth, and that's or something, flushing something out so that it's more pure. And so you get why then philosophical debate and the alchemy movement of Germany and stuff, that how those ended up becoming such an important concept, is people's minds were getting woken up in a way that they just did. They hadn't been employed quite in that method. A lot of the methodologies had probably changed because of the Jesuits being thrown out of the universities in Germany at a certain stage, and new approaches being taken on by the revolutionary Protestants of the time. And that you had these things, the secret societies, that were mostly educators and jurists, and educators and jurists that were having this opportunity to shape the minds of a new generation around what we now think of it as the Enlightenment. And so stuff like this ended up becoming important to a lot of us because we were trying to figure out, how did we even get these terms for this? Say like the secular term tolerance, that really is something that was more of you find a lot in Freemasonic regalia and artwork and such like. And it was because they were taking what was this religious concept from Thomas Aquinas's Christian Aristotelianism and applying it through this new Freemasonic idea of tolerance being this thing of society all getting along and tolerating each other. It was, it was a brilliant idea. Why? It's hard to hard to be like, oh, that, who would want that? You know what I mean? Like now, it's as normal as bread and butter, and and normal as water, and just so but people started discussing this, and now, if you weren't somebody who was fascinated with Freemasonic artwork, you wouldn't have known why this reference in our language had changed. But it is what it is, and so that kind of talk, that's certain kind of discourse. That's the manosphere and red pill world, and it's not an accusation against the Masons. It's that this is what happened. That's the whole idea, is that there's not there's not a lot of judgment. A lot there, and actually, in that realm of the internet, the term "it is what it is" is a very common saying, because there's so much that people are like, what are we going to do now then? It is what it is. Well, we all going to kill each other? And so people don't get, it's not this crazy, people want it to be a lot more than it is. And it's not this breeding spot of internet people getting crazy, planning to overthrow. No, there's many people like that. And you'll find them all the time everywhere. We're doing some crazy. But this idea that's like widely popular across the right, no. Because they want peace, prosperity. The guys have disappeared. If they wanted crazy, they would be doing something crazy. No, they've disappeared because they want peace and anonymity. They want to be left alone. So they're not going to do something loony and crazy. And so a lot of people are getting this wrong about the red pill and the manosphere. A big part of it is now women have to kind of start showing this concept of, like, do you even understand the words we're saying? Do you get in any way what we're trying to get across to you? Because we're starting to a lot of guys are like, no, they can't. There's something kind of broken about them, and they can't understand why there shouldn't be violent Marxist revolution. They just don't. So there we go. There's some thoughts. Uh-oh. Yeah. Bam. Look at Spiffy. Old man on the town. Oh, yeah. All right, later.